the last week.
Prince George of Cambridge, William and Kate's firstborn and future king, celebrates his first birthday. Upwardly mobile, walking at one. These are the latest photos for the Cambridge family album. They complete a busy year for the royal Todd.
The Queen and Prince Philip are mightily proud of this young lad.
From £8, 6 ounces to confident little boy, the third in line to the throne has already conducted his first public engagements.
We could see a little boy who was beginning to interact with the world.
In doing so, he's endeared himself to many an anti-monarchist.
New Zealand and Australia fell in love with the little chap. They dubbed him the Republican Slayer.
His media pull surpasses even that of his mother.
Every time he's photographed, it's a major event. I mean, this toddler is going to be king.
With his first year under his belt, the Georgian era is well underway. Just days after the Duchess of Cambridge was filmed playing hockey in heels, Kensington Palace announced to the world she was expecting. The guessing games began. Was Kate carrying a future king or queen? But like many couples, the royal parents-to-be wanted to find out on the day. And when that day came, he or she would be born at the private Lindo wing at St Mary's Hospital in Paddington. The big question was, when was the baby due? In what was going to be one of the most significant photo calls in modern royal times, space was at a premium. So, media organisations from here in the UK and around the world had to make sure that they got their spot to get the shot of William and Kate emerging from the Lindo wing. But all we knew from Kensington Palace was that the baby was due in July at some stage. It didn't take much to get the media twitchy. It soon emerged parking was suspended outside the Lindo wing for the entire month. So, on the 1st of July, the media began to arrive in force. The great Kate wait had begun.
Outside the Lindo wing, it was a sort of like a decorators' convention with all these ladders for the photographers just piling up from the beginning of the month, really, because no one had a clue when the baby was going to appear, when the couple were going to turn up and go in. All we knew it was going to be very last minute. And so all the journalists from all around the world were sort of beginning to hedge their bets around about early July and marking things down on the pavement. It became known as the limbo wing because basically nobody had a clue what was going on.
We were here every day, we were meeting up, we were checking up on the news. There were odd, quirky little photo opportunities going on. Rumours, always rumours, sometimes no rumours, sometimes very boring long days, other times a flurry of activity, but still always on the horizon. We knew it was going to happen sometime.
Then, just after 5 a.m. on the 22nd of July, out of view of the cameras trained on the front door of the Lindo wing, Kate, by now already in labour, slipped in a side entrance, accompanied by her husband.
Very good morning to you. Breaking news, the Duchess of Cambridge is admitted to hospital in labour. She travelled to the Lindo wing of St Mary's with the Duke of Cambridge earlier this morning. The first man to know, as you would expect, our Royal Correspondent Paul Harrison with me now. Hi, tell us what happened.
Well, Kate, I got a call just after 5:30 this morning from somebody who saw Kate's vehicles arrive from Kensington Palace. She went into labour naturally, and that was when she was brought here to the Lindo wing. That she is well, which is good news.
It was a sort of national vigil, and the mass of the world's media crammed into that tiny street outside the Lindo wing, disturbing every young mother trying to be safely delivered of their child. But it must have underscored again for the Duchess of Cambridge quite what a child she was delivering.
As you can see, everybody literally ran from the Victoria Memorial here towards the gates there. Kate Burley, let's go back to you.
It's a son, we're being told, Anna. It's a son born at 4:24 p.m.
Kensington Palace say that the Duchess of Cambridge has been delivered of a son, their terminology. Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Cambridge, was safely delivered of a son at 4:24 p.m, so quite some number of hours ago. You can hear them cheering.
And there was an element of royal theatre about it, a little bit of royal farce actually in some of it. I mean, the whole business of the easel was a bit crazy, I suppose. Some of the American channels in particularly like that. But no, it was an incredible moment.
Congratulations, I love you. Prince William and Kate. Oh, congratulations.
But obviously Wills and Kate are representative of our generation, so it's great to have a child now being brought up that we feel will be our future king.
We've been debating all day what's going to be the name. Will it be a girl? Will it be a boy? And, you know, we're just ecstatic. It's our future king.
It's very exciting, and to see all the people here is just magical. It's really magical.
We are very happy, and we are looking for the baby. We're the baby!
But they and the rest of the world would have to wait until the following day to see William and Kate emerge with their son. Meanwhile, the news continued to be spread far and wide into the night.
On this day, the 22nd of July, in the year 2013, we welcome on humble duty a future king.
The following day, the Lindo wing doors opened, but for visitors only. Michael and Carol Middleton dropped by to see their first grandchild.
He's absolutely beautiful. They're both doing really well, and we're so thrilled.
How are the parents doing?
Fabulously.
The Prince of Wales and Duchess of Cornwall followed soon afterwards, hinting it wouldn't be long before we'd see the future king and heir.
How is the baby boy, sir?
We'll wait and see. You'll see in a minute.
Well, there was so much anticipation, and there were so many false starts because the doors were twitching and the cameras were all just focused on this pair of closed doors for hours, and every time someone came out we thought, is that going to be them, is that them?
Here we go.
Oh, false alarm, okay.
Eventually, after all of that, they came out, and William and Kate and George, and it was the first time that the world got to see Prince George, the future king. It was just this incredible moment where everything that everyone had been waiting for months and years was suddenly there right in front of us, and we could see this baby for the first time.
People knew it was a moment. It was a big moment. The interviews and the questions, I certainly didn't expect two new parents that had been through what they'd been through to engage like that. It was enormous. I mean, all credit to them for doing it, because it must have been huge pressure. And so any pressure, I suppose, that we felt was definitely superseded by their pressure.
Well, he's got a good pair of lungs on him, that's for sure. He's a big boy, he's quite heavy, but we're still working on a name, so we'll have that as soon as we can. But it's the first time we've seen him, really, so having a proper chance to catch up and see it. Very emotional.
Yeah, it's very emotional. It's such a special time. I think any parent, will probably sort of know what this feeling feels like. So.
Very special. was, and I'll remind him of his tardiness when he's a bit older, because I know how long you've all been sat out here, so hopefully the hospital and you guys can all go back to normal now and we can look after him. So he's got her looks, thankfully.
No, I'm not sure about that.
Wait and see, Peter, wait and see. Oh, we've done that already. It's good. She's got way more than me, thank God.
I think I was on such a high anyway, and so was Catherine, about George, that really we were happy to show him off to whoever wanted to see him. As any new parent knows, you're only too happy to show off your new child and, proclaim that he's the best looking or the best everything. It's nice that people want to see George, so, I'm just glad he wasn't screaming his head off the whole way through.
Having introduced their son to the world, it was back inside the hospital, albeit briefly. Just time enough to wrestle with the car seat, out of view of the cameras.
My memory of it really was, it was a bit of a wow factor at last, it's happening, but also the way that he was in charge and he drove the car away. He also made sure the seat was fixed and he could put the baby in the back.
Believe me, it wasn't my first time, and I know there's been speculation about that. I had to practice, I really did. I was terrified that I was going to do some, it was going to fall off or the door wasn't going to close properly, so I had actually practiced with that seat, but only once before. Where I can be, I'm as independent as I want to be, and I think driving your son and your wife away from hospital when they just had a born was really important to me, and I don't like fuss, so it's much easier to do it yourself.
Beside his father and in the arms of his mother. Having arrived in the world just 24 hours earlier, a future king, as yet unnamed, was presented to the world. But after having admitted he'd already changed his son's nappy and declaring his one-day-old had his mother's looks, it was time to disappear from the glare of the cameras, and for a brief period, it was time to go home to Kensington Palace as a family.
He's a little bit of a rascal, I'll put it that way. So he either reminds me of my brother or me when I was younger, I'm not sure. But he's doing very well at the moment. He does like to keep having his nappy changed. He's growing quite quickly, actually, but he's a little fighter. He kind of he wriggles around quite a lot, and he doesn't want to go to sleep that much, which is a little bit of a problem.
But the Cambridges wouldn't be at Kensington Palace for long enough, though, to be sure of a name for their firstborn, and for it to be announced by Kensington Palace, George Alexander Louis, or Prince George of Cambridge.
For me, Catherine and now little George are my priorities, and Lupo. And so, yeah. He's coping all right, actually. I mean, as a lot of people know who've got dogs and bringing newborn back, they take a little bit of time to adapt. But no, he's been all right so far. He's been slobbering sort of around the house a bit, so he's perfectly happy.
His great-grandmother, the Queen, would be pleased that her father and grandfather's name would live on in the House of Windsor. She paid a visit to give her blessing as the couple packed to take Prince George to Bucklebury.
Kensington Palace at that time was still being renovated, so they were in their smaller apartment. Bucklebury and Kate's parents' house was really a place where they could completely be at home. They could get everything they needed there. They had Kate's mum helping, they had the family helping. It did make a lot of sense for them to go there.
Time at the Middletons' Berkshire home also provided the perfect environment for official family photographs. It was out with formality in both style and photographer. The job was given to Kate's father, Michael.
Perhaps after all the hurly-burly and all the stress of perhaps the birth and everything that we faced here, it was maybe a welcome respite from that, to do something in a family setting, to do something that was much more obviously relaxed and intimate.
But those initial relaxed few weeks away from the cameras soon came to an end, with the christening of the Prince who will one day be Supreme Governor of the Church of England. Prince William and Prince Charles were both christened in the music room at Buckingham Palace, but William and Kate had different ideas when it came to the christening of their son, Prince George. Instead, they chose the intimacy of the Chapel Royal here at St James's Palace. It was steeped in history, but more than that, it was where the coffin of the Duke's mother, Diana, Princess of Wales, rested the night before her funeral.
A christening is a very special moment in a Christian child's life. I think what was special for Prince George is we all knew that one day he was going to be Supreme Governor of the Church of England, and he was being christened inside the Chapel Royal, the ceiling of which is painted by symbols of the first Supreme Governor, Henry VIII, and therefore underscored again this historical, extraordinary role for this child, and what an importance that religion and faith will have at a secular time in the nation's life.
Dressed impeccably in his Honiton lace gown, the only uncertainty, would 3-month-old George behave for the then Archbishop of Canterbury? Kate would later reveal he did.
He was such a good boy, actually. We're very, very lucky. Not always like that, but I think he enjoyed all the... He did different people and like, so there was lots of action going on. I think it was slightly distracted.
Who knows what the future will bring, because for that photograph Queen Victoria created for Edward VIII, it didn't turn out to be a reign for him, and so one can never know what the vicissitudes of time will bring. I think it was a photograph of great foresight and very typical of Queen Victoria, to be photographed with her heir, her heir's heir, and her heir's heir's heir. And the same thing was done with the Queen. There she was with the Prince of Wales, with the Duke of Cambridge and little Prince George of Cambridge. But what the nature of monarchy is about is saying this is the direction, this is the assurance, this can be there as the guide against which the nation can take its swings and its roundabouts.
The family wanted it to be a private christening. They didn't want to have cameras in the christening. However, they understood that they couldn't just disappear off and have the christening completely behind closed doors without giving the public some glimpse into what kind of event it was.
Prince George has been born into a time when monarchy is moderately popular in the United Kingdom, and the concept of it around the Commonwealth and in the world. And I think that that's made it very much easier for two young parents trying to find their way. Demands have been made to see the child, and I think they've got the balance just right. I mean, the fact that they've taken him around the world and they've also held that privacy that he needs to develop has been perfect.
William and Kate's tour down under in April was entirely geared around their 9-month-old. Dozens of engagements in cities across New Zealand and Australia, and all but 2 nights where their nanny stepped in, the Duke and Duchess returned to be with their son.
It was a huge change from when we saw him several months earlier, because we could see a little boy who was beginning to interact with the world. Even though William and Kate were very happy to bring Prince George to Australia and New Zealand, and they wanted to show him off and they wanted the public to see him, I think they also didn't want it to become this constant stream of what George did next. They didn't want him to be on display all the time, every day. So they very much picked choice moments for him to come out and to be seen and to be presented to the public.
The first of those 2 choice moments was at Government House in Wellington, a playdate with other children the same age.
A lot of the parents there described him as very advanced for his age. They described him as a little bit intrepid. He was crawling very confidently, he was moving around, he was picking up toys, he was looking at them, he was looking at the other babies, and I think it was a huge change from when we saw him several months earlier, because we could see a little boy who was beginning to interact with the world.
Just as Prince William had done in New Zealand 31 years earlier. But William and Kate were going to do things their way.
What I thought was very good about New Zealand and Australia was the style, the relaxed style of the introduction. The fact that in New Zealand it was done with other children, and that it was very relaxed, and that it was, I think, it just showed them that they wanted to do things slightly differently. It was less elitist. It wasn't just them with their child at Government House and it was a closed situation. There were all sorts of parents there, and I thought that actually was a better way of doing it.
Australia wouldn't be without their moment too. At the zoo in Sydney, Prince George had an encounter with a bilby. Early moments in a future king's life, cameramen know they have to get right.
The pictures will outlive the cameraman. This is the future king. So put that to the back of your mind and then get on with the job, and thankfully the results were quite good.
Back on British soil, Prince George continues to step into public view, but only very occasionally. William and Kate have been careful to protect their son from overexposure to the cameras.
When that candle is lit and those very able lungs blow it out, it will mark extraordinary success in terms of the parenthood of two young mother and father, and the amazing way they've protected this young bundle of love.
They don't want to overexpose the situation. They know that that can be dangerous, and they want to make sure he can grow up like they did in many respects, quite free and able to be as normal as possible. That is quite important to both them.
This toddler is going to be king, and it's something that we haven't seen, for a while. So, especially in the sort of new media age of 24-hour news and Twitter and Facebook, there's so much appetite for that young boy.
It's been a big year of firsts for the future king. Perhaps the next will be to learn the responsibility of being an elder brother.